Hello everyone, welcome to my lecture on the topic 5, that is elasticity of demand. In our earlier lectures we have learnt about demand, law of demand, its various determinants, as well as the change in the demand happening, right? So the now coming topic is elasticity of demand. The basic difference between the demand and elasticity of demand is demand and law of demand is a quantitative statement which expresses the change in direction of a demand due to change in prices of the goods, while elasticity of demand is a quantitative statement, that is, which measures the quantitative change in the demand of the goods. So the basic definition of elasticity of demand is the rate of responsiveness in the demand of a commodity for a given change in the price or any other determinants of the demand. In other words, it explains the extent of change in the quantity demanded because of the change in the determining factors. So, in equation, the equation represented elasticity of demand ED is equal to proportionate change in the quantity demanded divided by proportionate change in the determinants of the demand. Now the main key terms that we keep using in this particular topic, that is elasticity of demand, are two terms, that is elastic and inelastic. What do you mean by elastic and what do you mean by elastic? We'll have a brief understanding about this concept. Elastic. Demand is considered to be elastic if the absolute value of the elasticity of demand is greater than 1. That is, ED is greater than 1. That is, we consider it as a elastic. That is, quantity changed is faster than the change in the price. In that situations, we'll term it as a elastic. That is, demand to be elastic. Now, inelastic, demand is considered inelastic if the absolute value of the elasticity of demand ED is less than 1. That is, the quantity changes slower than the price change. Right? So we'll keep using these terms in the coming topics. So the next topic is elasticity, measurement of elasticities. So elasticity is measured in the following ways. One is perfectly elastic demand, perfectly inelastic demand, relatively elastic, relatively inelastic, and unitary or unity elasticity. First one, perfectly elastic demand. Perfect elastic demand, here this is the graph representing the concept. So when does a product or a goods or a services acquire a perfectly elastic demand is when the demand changes substantially, even with a minimal price change or no price change at all. In that case, the demand will be infinite for the products. That is, let us consider in this graph. Let me explain you in this way. We are representing quantity demanded on the x-axis and price on the y-axis. Now this is the determined price of the product for which we are estimating the elasticity of the demand. So there is no change in the price happening here, but there is a consistent increase in the demand happening, that is represented as a horizontal line parallel to the x-axis. So at one level the quantity demanded can be this one, at some other level it can be Q2, and some other level it can be Q3. That is, there is a subsequent change in the demand happening even though there is no change in the prices here. So in such scenario, we term it as the elasticity of demand as infinite. The demand curve of this D1 is horizontal straight line, and it shows that OP price, any amount is in demand, and if price increases, the consumer will not purchase the commodity. Any slight change in the prices at any point of time, it may decrease the demand for the commodity to certain extent, or even it can even become a zero. So the best examples for this perfectly elastic demand can be, we can talk it as your regular basic necessities, or the rare medicines, or any essential items which are required to meet our day-to-day requirements. The next is perfectly inelastic demand. Perfectly inelastic demand, in this case, even a large quantity, even though there is a large change in the price, fails to bring about a change in the quantity demanded. That is, these are the three price levels denoted here on the y-axis. This is the initial price. When the price is increasing, there is no change in the quantity happening. It remains as it is. Even though if the price is decreasing, there is no change in the quantity demanded observed. So in this scenario, in other words, the response of the demand to a change in the price is nil. In this case, we term that elasticity of demand is equal to 0. Next one is relatively elastic demand. Relatively elastic demand, here we are going to, here the graphical representation represents a slight change in the price as well as a slight change in the quantity also. So the demand changes more than proportionately to the change in the price. That is, a small change in the price leads to a very big change in the quantity demanded. That is, in this case, we consider it as ED is less than 1. That is, the fall in the price. This is the initial price P1. P2 is the reduction in the price happening. Now with the reduction in the price happening, there is a increase in the quantity observed. So if the price from P1 is reduced to P2, the quantity tends to increase from OQ1 to OQ2, which is larger than the change. What is this? What is that is to be observed here is the gap between the change in this thing that is represented here and the change in the quantity here. Compared to this, it is relatively large. For a slight change in the price, there is a more than the price change, there is a quantity demanded, change in the quantity demanded. Relatively inelastic demand. Now, relatively inelastic demand, the explanation remains as it is, similar to the previous one, but the thing what has to be noted here is the change or the amount of change observed in the price as well as amount of change observed in the quantity aspect. So the price change is more, so for which the quantity changed is less. So in this case, a large change in price leads to a small change in the quantity demanded. So we term ED is less than 1. Demand curve will be steeper while price falls from OP1 to OP2, right, which is smaller than the change in the price. Unity elasticity. The change in the price, the proportionate change in the price and the proportionate change in the quantity will be same, right? So here the change in the demand is exactly equal to the change in the price, When both are equal, ED is equal to 1, the elasticity is said to be unitary. When price falls from OP1 to OP2, quantity demanded increases from OQ1 to OQ2. This one. Change in quantity demanded, so price elasticity of demand is equal to unity. Like if suppose there is a 10% change in the price given to the customer, for which there is a response of change in the demand also to the extent of 10%. So 10% reduction in the price is leading to 10% increase in the quantity demanded. In such cases, we called it as a unity demand. Now here this elasticity of demand will be equal to 1. Now coming to the importance of elasticity of demand, why this concept is essential, in what way it is essential for the business community. The concept of elasticity of demand is of much practical importance, has much of practical importance for fixation of pricing, fixing of the prices depending upon its elastic or inelastic. It can fix a higher price. That is, a seller under monopoly and imperfect competition has to take into account elasticity of demand while fixing the price of its product. If the demand of the product is inelastic, he has to fix a higher price. Production. Producers generally decide the production level on the basis of the demand for the product. Hence, elasticity of demand helps the producers to take the correct decisions regarding the level of output what they want to produce. Distribution. Elasticity of demand also helps in determining of rewards for factors of production, how the factors of production are to be distributed. If the demand of the labor is inelastic, trade units will be successful in raising the wages. It is applicable to other factors of production also. It's a small relevant point for the purpose of distribution is cited here. International trade. Elasticity of demand helps in finding out the terms of trade between two countries. Terms of trade refers to rate at which the domestic commodity is exchanged for foreign commodities. Terms of trade depends upon the elasticity of demand of the two countries for each other goods. Public finance. Elasticity of demand helps the government in formulating tax policies. For example, for imposing a tax on the commodity, the finance minister has to take into account the elasticity of the demand. And nationalization. The concept of elasticity of demand enables the government to decide whether nationalization of industries. So these are the few significant importance of elasticity of demand for the government as well as for the business concerns. Now with this, I'll end up the session here. Thank you.